Cognex has come out in the last many months through the spring and summer time frame to let everybody know that what some of the newer model features, for consideration for any of the new projects you might be working on. I do have just a handful of PowerPoint slides. I'm going to just as a talking point give you a chance also to actually see what some of these camera models look like. And again, since it's being recorded, you'll be able to get full access to all this information as well. And then I want to talk about a few vision tools and some techniques that you might find interesting, when you get to where you're working on your own vision programs and using Cognex. The first actually product line 2000, it's their they call it a vision sensor. It's more for detecting things that are there, not there, as opposed to the higher end camera. Of course, the price is a small to medium sized price. The newer features they just come out with is now they have models with a liquid lens. So instead of you having to buy the right lens, it comes with a liquid lens. You can order it that way. And of course, the Insight 2000 is a great product because you have integrated lighting and lensing built into it. There are two models, as you see here. You get your primary standard Insight 2000, which is, we'll say, the larger one. And then you have the Mini, which is almost like you can have it mounted 90 degrees down there. So it's a smaller footprint for going inside the machines, maybe squeezing some of these cameras into your tightly formed machine to see what's going on inside for part detection and part inspection. One of the other newer features of the standard Insight 2000 is they have a higher resolution camera imager of 1280 by 960 pixels. So you're not always at the standard resolution of 640 by 480 or 800 by 600, but now they have a higher resolution and with built-in liquid lens. So these are something to think about for your basic vision inspections for your machine. And of course, as we all know, the vision programming software you would use for this is the Easy Builder, which we've had for many, many years in order to program these. The next, and I call it the bread and butter product from Cognex anymore, is the Insight 7000. It's the Gen 2. We say that because, there was an Insight 7000 camera series many, many years ago. It was like the first version of this. And they've really taken the power of what they had before, but even enhanced it even much more. The integrated lighting is fantastic. You can control the left, right, top, and bottom banks of the light, whether it be red, blue, or green. There's built-in diffusers or filters. And the other thing is the lensing is you can get a autofocus lens with it where you can change the lens itself, or you can use your C-mount lenses. I've got a piece of software we're going to run later on and show you how you can have access to it yourself, where you will see how to configure one of these newer Insight 7000s Gen 2. Now this camera has been around for a couple of years now at least, but it's got a full range, not only monochrome and color, but from your basic cameras of a model 7500 all the way up to the 7905 5 megapixel. You can do almost everything you want to do with it. These cameras have a newer imager over the Gen 1 older series, CMOS imagers, and they have a faster acquisition. So therefore, the camera will take the picture and move the image to the processor of the camera a lot faster than its predecessors. So that's something to really think about. What I'm going to get into next is the micro. We've had a micro before, and this is the new micro called the 8000 series. These are powered over PoE, power over Ethernet. And if you have an application where you really don't need integrated lighting on the camera itself, then these are a good camera platform to use, because you just mount the C-mount lens right on the front. You mount it to a mounting bracket and you hook up the cable to it and you're good to go. Why I bring the 8000 series up now is there's a couple new models. They've always had a 5-megapixel camera imager for this 8000, but now they've added 2 more cameras models to this over the summer. One is called the 8502P and one is called the 8505. The one being a 2.3 megapixel camera and the other one being a 5 megapixel camera. They had a 5 megapixel camera before, but this one is using now the global shutter. So now the part can be in motion and at rather high speeds for you to get the image and do the inspection. So these two new models, the 8502 and the 8505, are really great, especially if you don't need the integrated onboard lighting right on the front face like you saw in the Gen 2 prior to that. Now, this one's been out for probably maybe a year and a half or so, but you always have to talk about the 9912. It is Cognex's Insight 12 megapixel camera. So the imager on here again is a CMOS imager, and it's got 4096 by 3000 pixels. Again, a global shutter, which are most of the cameras from Cognex. So the part can be in motion or stopped, when you're trying to take the picture and then do the inspections. It's got a lot of the same features as you saw on the Insight 7000 Gen 2, with your wraparound illuminator, which can turn red or green, showing you pass and fail. Your onboard memory stick up here, where you can put not only job files in there, but you can actually save camera images, images of maybe all the bad parts or good parts, and store them up on that storage memory. So it's a very good camera. It comes in 2 flavors. You have a grayscale, monochrome, and you have a color. So with those 2 features there, this camera is actually one of our more popular cameras for figuring out what people need to do, because it's got the high resolution. Now, this is the last of the Insight cameras, and it's always good to make note, Cognex has always had a line scan camera. It was a 1K line scan imager before, 1000 pixels on the vertical up and down. Now, and you can go up to 8000 wide, shall we say, a 1K by 8. This one takes it where you have 2K, 2000 pixels up and down, and up to 16,000 pixels wide. So, you have double the resolution, and it comes in the same form factor as the 9000, but of course it's a line scan camera. Like all of Cognex's cameras, you hook up a green Ethernet cable to it to hook up to your operator panel, to hook up your Ethernet switch, or to hook up to your PLC, hook up a power I/O cable, and you're good to go. All of these cameras will use the Easy Builder software from Cognex, which they've had for many, many years, or all the cameras can use their spreadsheet programming interface. Although the Insight 2000 family is not spreadsheet programming capable, but Easy Builder can do everything. This is one slide I always want to try to remind people of, and it's a big thing with Cognex, not only in their Vision Insight cameras, but also their data man for ID applications. Cognex is very proud of that. They can connect up to almost everything. I say that because I don't know what else out there they can't connect to, but of course the real popular ones being hooking up to Rockwell PLCs or Siemens PLCs. They make it very easy to connect their cameras and take anything that's in the camera, any variables or inspection data, and send it to the PLC that you're using. It doesn't cost you anything to get these drivers, these GSD files or EDS files. And all of these drivers are also available, and you can use them with their data man for reading barcodes. I'm sure Adam will touch on that as well. But this slide is a real popular slide because it shows you what you can connect up to it. And of course, Rockwell is the most common. What I want to show you now, and this is something that we don't often, I always talk to people after they get the camera and they want to start hooking up. But what I'm showing up here is just a photo of my laptop screen. And when you install the Cognex Insight Explorer software, whether you're running EasyBuilder or a spreadsheet, the software also gets installed onto your laptop. They call it a factory protocol description. Basically, it's the PLC GSD drivers, like if you're doing Profinet, or if you're doing Rockwell, there's EDS and add-on profile. So when you install the Cognex programming software, they give you all this. It's always a question that people ask after the fact, but that's why I thought it'd be a good time to talk to everybody now and saying that you get it. It's in there. Now it's just a matter of, where do they put it, and so you can find it, and so you can install these files and or application programs and use them instead of pulling your hair out at the beginning. Where do they put all this stuff? So usually when the Cognex software, it's all in there, just making you feel comfortable of where is it and what you need to do with it. Now, one of the things I want to talk about now is, the Insight 8000, as you saw, and even the 9000 camera, and even the 2000, they're pretty straightforward as far as what you see is what you get. But what I'm going to bring up now is talking about the Insight 7000 Gen 2 camera. It's so flexible and versatile that you can do almost anything with it as far as lighting and lensing. On the Cognex website, and I can get you a link after the fact in a follow-up email. But on their website, they have a configurator, as you're seeing right up here, where it actually brings up a bare Gen 2 Insight 7000 camera. And so this is what you get when you buy it. And what I like is kind of, if you haven't seen one in person, you take this piece of software on the website and you turn it all the way around, you get a feel for, what does this camera look like, And then the beauty of this is they have this configurator where you can actually add on the components to help make it to be the vision camera that you need. So what I'm going to do just for this little webinar is I'm going to pick, hey, let's put an autofocus lens on there. And you see it actually puts it on there, and you can still move it around, kind of get a feel to, learn more about it. Then I'm going to pick an 8mm lens, which goes inside it, which is right in there. And then I'm going to, as far as the light type, I'm going to say, let's get it all assembled up maximum to everything. So let's pick the integrated light module, and it actually shows it what it looks like on here. It gives you this light housing, I call that. And then I'm going to say, let's come on down here to pick, let's pick a white LED light. It mounts that up there. And then sometimes I like to put the polarizer cover if I'm working with the parts that have a little bit of a shine to them and do a lot of reflection. So I put that on there, and now we can see, we can turn it around, get a feel for what the camera looks like, especially if this is the first time you're seeing this camera in person or over the web. So this little tool called the configurator for the Gen 2 is really nice. It's on the internet, it's on the website. We'll make sure you have access to that. What I'm going to take a few minutes for now is show you a few vision tools with EasyBuilder. Now again, I said EasyBuilder is used to program the Insight 2000, the Gen 2, the 8000, the 9000, all of these cameras, and even cameras you might have bought before, some older cameras from Cognex, whether it be the Insight Micro 1000, the 5600, the 5000 platform. EasyBuilder can program all of that. So let's go in and load up an EasyBuilder application that I've been dabbling with to show off some of the features. And some of the new features new because I don't think too many people know about them, but they've had them there for actually for many years. So I'm actually going to just close this and end the slideshow, and I'll launch up the Easy Builder. Hopefully everybody can see. What I did is I took some of our training camera images. It's actually a picture of an old micro camera, Cognex camera. And on the bottom here is like the back side showing you the two connectors and things like that. Cognex has always been make it very easy to display the information of what's going on inside the camera, inside your vision tools, and put it on the screen. And usually people do a lot of vision tools and they're great. They see the tools pass or fail by having the tools turn red or green. And that's great. But sometimes when you're looking at a particular part and you're inspecting that part, you want to have information put on the screen. Like in this case here, we're counting these edges. If I zoom in here and move this down, we want to count the edges right here on this, front part of the inspection we're doing. How many light to dark or dark to light edges? Over here, we're counting, or not counting, we're measuring the width of this back feature of this part. So we've always been able to do these tools, and that's great. But sometimes some customers would really like to have that information on the screen, so an operator going by can see the actual measurement or count of how many pixels or edges or blobs are going by. And then what's also very important is when you're doing Easy Builder vision tools, we all know that the perimeter, the circumference in a rectangular form factor shines up green or red for pass or fail, and also the individual tools. But let's say like we're looking at this width here and measuring this dimension right here between the left and right edge find tools. And we'll see that turn red, but maybe we want to also make this measurement display indicator turn red or green also. And how do we do that? Now, of course, many, many years ago, doing that in spreadsheet was also very easy. But with Easy Builder and more of its capabilities staying in Easy Builder, you can not necessarily be the programmer we once had to be in doing machine vision with spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is show you which tool we're looking at and how we go about doing that, for your next vision application. So one thing I like to do, you have all these vision tools, and of course, this is the first time you're seeing a lot of this, and it can be very confusing of all this graphical dynamics going on. So one thing that we have inside the Cognex software is by highlighting the step 2, setup tools, which is where you add, edit, and delete tools over here on the right-hand side. And then I come over to the edge tools right here, and I know that's detecting this edge tool here. I'm going to zoom in so we can see it better. So this is finding this edge right here, and I have a tool called Detect the Outside Edges. And I have another tool called Detect the Inside Edges. And then I'm using these two edges, and these vertical edges that we found. And there's another tool called Measurement Thickness, which comes up right here. So that all works well. And as the part changes, what we also want to do is maybe I want to display that measurement somewhere close by on the vision display. So there's another tool called Display Width. And this tool is actually, if I come down into the inspect part and I come down, it's actually part of what they call the plot tools. I'm going to kind of see if I can move this up a little bit. And under the plot tools in the lower left-hand corner, there's something where you can say, hey, let's plot a string information. And in doing so, I'm going to go up here where it says display the width. And then as you're seeing in the dialog in the bottom middle part, I gave it a name, display width. I put a description in there, display the width dimension on the screen so someone knows what's going on. Over here on the XY, you pick out your XY where you want it to go. In the string tab, we'll use a command called string F for formatted string, and we'll type in width is, and then I have a little formatted %.3F for a floating point, and I put in the vision tool, measurement, thickness, distance, and that comes up there. So having this on the display doesn't really take much time because these displaying and using the string F is really doesn't do anything with getting the image and processing edge finds. It's more about just putting the image, putting the information right on the screen. Now, one thing that we're doing here, which I like to, which I'm going to show off right now, is I want to be able to make sure that width is turning red and green based on an inspection. So I have a little tool called a math tool for, and it's called math. I just gave it a name, math color width tool. And what I'm doing over here is I'm evaluating the status of the thickness tool, which finds that. And I'm saying that if I have a pass or a fail, then I want to make the color code 8 or 7, and that means make it red or green. Now, that's one thing that sets up the color code based on this inspection. But over on the palette on the right-hand side here, where you see my little bouncing blue ball here, that's where all the vision tools are listed. But if I want to link up one number from one tool to another number, there's something called the links tab. And then I'm going to highlight that links tab. And then what we have here is this is all the vision tools. And in each of the vision tools, I'm going to expand it out where we can see it. And this is where I'm actually showing that out of the math color width tool, which is where I'm setting based on a pass fail of the width measurement. I take the result out of there and I click it right over to the color parameter for the display width. So just by clicking, the inputs and the outputs to various of the tools, I can do it all here and have a nice graphical screen of my inspections going on. Now, to show you this, I'm going to click down under the Run Job, showing you all these vision tools, and I'm going to focus in on the width measurement, and I'm going to go to the next image, and you're seeing all the tools move and shake and be position referenced. And now over here, where this part was a little wider than it should be, it actually shows the width measurement up there and in red. So now if we didn't have that, the operator using the Vision View display or your Insight software seeing it this way, you wouldn't know, well, what is that value and why did it fail? You would just see red, hey, something happened, but I don't know what the value was. So you're giving more information to your operators or people out there on the floor seeing those vision inspections and working with them. Now, I did this for quite a few other inspections we have working here. So I have a good sample of this application and tools and images. So this is something that I'm going to put together as far as something we can send out to everybody where you could have the software. It's always a free download from Cognex. Have this sample job file, have a few images, and kind of work with it yourself. Now, one important thing, again, when you install the Cognex software, I always say it's in there, but where is it? And we always get calls, and we don't mind getting calls after someone gets their first application working, and they might get into, well, where's the wiring diagram for the camera that I'm using? And like they install the PLC drivers for you, Cognex also gives you all the technical manuals for all the cameras. But where are they and how do we get them? So if we go up to the Help menu on the top of the Easy Builder, and then come on down to the second choice, Insight Manuals, Just by clicking there, Easy Builder goes into your computer and you can see all the I/O manuals and camera manuals right here. So just by clicking this, you'll be able to have access and be able to look at the manuals for wiring and information. So they give you all that information, and that's really great to have at your access, just knowing where it's at. So what I'm going to do is pass the ball on to our other vision specialist, my esteemed colleague, Adam, and let him take over as we move forward for the webinar, and he's got some fantastic things to talk about as well. Adam, can you take over?
Yeah, I can take over. All right. Let's share my screen now. All right, let's pull up. Let's turn on my camera. Let's pull up my PowerPoint. Hit F5. Share my screen. All right.
All right, there we go.
Let's pull up a camera so you guys can see me. Look at this. All at the same time. Let's do a PowerPoint. I have my camera up at the same time. That doesn't matter. Okay. So I am going to talk about DataMan and some of the cool new things that are coming out for DataMan. I guess not new things, but some of the newer things that have come out that you may not know about. So DataMan is the product line where we're reading barcodes. So it's a fun, cool thing that helps us with tracking our parts coming down with track and trace and stuff like that. So here's the different families of barcode readers that we have. So we have the new 374, which is what I will show you live. We have some of our handhelds. In fact, there's a new handheld coming out soon. And then there's the smartphone MX1000, which I won't really talk about today, but just keep it in your back pocket and know that it exists. So I'll go through these quick because we know most of these have been out for a while. So the smallest generation of the DataMan series is the DataMan 70. It's super small, USB-C. It fits in small form factors. It only comes in with a serial output, but it still has the integrated light and lens and all that kind of stuff. So if you have a tight spot and you're hooking it up via USB, it's a really nice series to start reading your barcodes. And of course, all of the barcode readers do 1D, 2D, so on and so forth. So they can read a whole bunch of barcodes. The one that probably gets used the most is the 15260. So we have our 260s here, the most common. These come in a whole bunch of configurations. We're talking about different kinds of lights, polarized, red versus white, autofocus, non-autofocus. There's a ton of different staples. And just like Brian was saying with the Insight 2000, the body can actually rotate 90 degrees to even get if you have really tight spot to fit into. This is the first series now as we move up the line that has Ethernet communication. So we're talking about Profinet, Ethernet IP, the whole host of different things that Brian showed in that one slide. So a lot of industrial protocols, so on and so forth. So this is what I'll be showing you today. This is the new 370 series, which is replacing the old 300 series or 360 series that you guys have lying around, probably. Some of you may even have 370 series. This comes in a whole bunch of configurations, but the cool new thing is this awesome light. It's called the torchlight. So it's the same torchlight that we saw in the Gen 2, essentially, on that Insight 7000 Gen 2. So we get all this light. We have different covers that we can put on it, diffuse, polarized. But additionally, we have some interesting, cool new things. So we have an aimer, which I'll show you in the demonstration. So before DataMan used to have these two blinking lights, and you usually red lights, and they would just blink occasionally if you needed to know where the camera was actually looking, just so you could line it up with your box and your barcode. Well, now we have a cool grid system, which makes it even easier to kind of line it up for your barcodes. Additionally, we have this time of flight sensor here, which is probably the best addition outside of the lighting itself. So this allows the camera to know how far away something is. And what allows us to do is the new special lenses that live inside here, and there's 3 of them. They will automatically adjust their focus on how far something is away, which is completely different from what the older generations of autofocus lenses do. Now, the old ones were fast, and you could use what were called read setups, and you could kind of go through different steps, but this will do it automatically on the fly. So you can cover a really long range of reading distances without doing anything with one read setup, which is a really, really nice feature. It's kind of a nice little game changer, because really you just set up your reader, and it doesn't matter if your conveyor's 20 or let's say 4 feet wide and you have a 6-inch box all the way on the other side, or a 1-foot box. It doesn't matter anymore. The lens will automatically adjust to where it sees your box, which is really, really nice. And then of course we have this cool new little blue light that you can program to kind of flash, say if something goes wrong or something like that. So it's a really, really nice new feature. It comes in a 374 and a 375, so a 3 megapixel and a 5 megapixel. So it's a really, really nice new piece of technology. Some of you may even have the 474. This is the fastest barcode reader that Cognex has. The demonstration that I remember, they had an automatic card shuffler, and they had a barcode on each card. So just like in Vegas, and they put a 474 above it, and they told the automatic shuffler to shuffle, and it read every single card, and then they took one card out, shuffled it again, and it would tell you which card was missing based on the scripting that they did. But just like the 374 and the 474, these have the new sensors, just like the 5 and the 12. Actually, I don't think Brian actually touched on this, so some of you are probably privy to the knowledge of the HDR technology that Cognex has put out. So all the new sensors have this new HDR technology, which allows us, which doesn't add any time, but allows us to kind of pull out information in the image so that we can have a darker image, so we can have applications that move faster. Additionally, we can take out hot spots, stuff like that, and it all happens with just a single click of the button. You don't have to do anything. It does it all automatically. It also only takes one picture, unlike most HDR. It just uses the extra information on the sensor that's already there as it translates it back to the camera. So it's still a single picture HDR, which is really nice. So the 470 series has the HDR. It's the fastest one. It can do C mount, S mount. It can do the torch as well, the torch light from the 374, this guy. So if there is an application where things are really ripping along really, really fast, there's a barcode reader for that. So if static is a problem for some guys, I just wanted to point out that there is ESD for all the different barcode families. Handhelds, this is the Cadillac. It does it all, the 8600. I don't know how many people are doing handheld barcoding, but there is a number of series for Cognex. So the 8600 is the creme de la creme. It does a whole bunch of direct part mark, 2D, 1D. It has a nice ultralight technology, which allows it to illuminate a whole bunch of different surfaces, and it comes with a variety of connection types, so USB, RS-232, Ethernet, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. Then there's the 8072 DL. Do I have the ER in here? Oh, I do. Okay, good. So these are the same camera, but they're set up with different lenses. So this is for direct part mark. For those who are direct part marking metal, this is pretty much the best way to go, though there is a handheld coming out soon. And if Allison wants to talk about that at the end, she can. That will also do, it's slightly better at direct part mark, but that's what happens with new technology. Everything gets better. But yeah, so it's the same as the 8600. It's got a variety of lights. Right out of the box, you can read direct part mark pretty easily. This is extended range. This is for those guys sitting in fork trucks and something, you know, a distance away on the shelves. So there's up to 8 meters away. So it's a really nice handheld that can read codes at a great distance. And then there's the Everyman reader, the 8050. This is the cheapest of all of them. It has less lighting options, but it reads barcodes really, really well and still has the same algorithms as all the rest. So the verifier, I have no idea why all my titles have shifted down, but that's okay. So now for those doing verification, and I'm not sure who is doing verification, true verification to the ISO standards, there are now both the handheld verifier, where you hold it by hand or have a mount, but it did a new inline one. So this has a, you know, the super cool light, so it fits the ISO standard. But this is something you can put on a line and actually verify live as it's running through production that you know that your barcodes are matching the ISO standard for those who need to meet that standard, particularly pharmaceutical. So now it's no longer an offline process, it's an online process with this new 475 verifier. And of course the handheld one we've had for a while. So I didn't do the industrial terminals. It's kind of a niche thing that not a lot of people use, but it's the same engine in a smartphone, same algorithms, but it just attaches to a smartphone. But the different families, so you work up from the 70 to the 470, the 8050 to the 8600, and so forth. Live demo. Okay, let's do a live demo, shall we? All right, so I have here the 374 with the new HPIT, the Torchlight. And actually, I have my big old sign. So traditionally, when we're talking about barcode reading, we normally have, I don't know, for the 260 series or the 70 series, or even the 370 without the HPIT, right? This is the normal integrated light, or even this guy, right? The 470 series. We're talking about different read setups. Now with the autofocus lens, we can actually cover a great deal, probably, you know, a number of feet, but it happens through read setups. But now, so I have my 374, not this one, the other one, set up with the automatic, the time of flight sensor to do the automatic focus. So we're not talking about inches anymore, we're talking about feet. So let me get my chair out of the way here. So first I'll show you the aimer, the cool new aimer. I think you guys can see it here, right? So it's no longer 2 blinking lights. It's this nice little grid pattern where you see the edge of the field of view in the center point. So, because I don't think you guys can see it on the wall. So here we go. So we're reading about here, right? Let me position it correctly. We're reading really fast. So these, still a really, really fast reader. You can see it's reading incredibly fast. Now that wall is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 feet away. So as we walk away, this is automatically reading all the way back to the wall. Without doing anything, I haven't touched any read setups or anything like that. So as we move further in, reading. Now at some point I'm going to lose it because it's a 1D code. It's going to go out of field of view. However, a cool trick. Let's lift this up. So now I'm going to even come even closer. So right now we have an effective range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 feet without touching anything. And we're reading 1D, 2D, QR, the whole 9 lot. Now, of course, this gets a little dark back here, and these are a little small. I can basically read these all the way back here. And of course, it's image-based technology, so we can rotate the barcode almost flat and still be able to read it. So there's a lot of cool pieces of technology here, all working together. You know, the QR, even the data matrix we can light pretty much flat, still be able to read it. So all the algorithms you're used to seeing, but now with a lens and a time of flight sensor that goes across this huge range. So if you have a wide conveyor, instead of buying a couple of different barcode readers that have different lenses on them so that they can see different distances, now you have to buy one, which is a really nice piece of technology. So just like all of the readers, this is the setup tool, so it's different than Insight that Brian was showing earlier. But just like Insight, if you guys haven't used the new setup tool, the 6 series, it's just like Easy Builder. You kind of work your way down the left side. You have your image here where you can go into live and tune your reader. You have your code details to say what codes am I trying to read and how many of them. You set up your different triggering types. There's a whole bunch of different triggering types. How you want your data to come out, your formatting, what you want your inputs and outputs to do, and if you want to talk industrial protocols. So
Hey,
there's
Adam.
yeah.
Is there any kind of rule of thumb of how fast the product can go by? If it's 10 feet away from the reader and it's going at 100 feet a minute, do we just not have enough time to focus to that distance and read the code, or is there some tech tips on how to install these for that kind of application?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There is a slight delay. I think it's 25 or 50 milliseconds to adjust across the whole field of view. So I haven't seen it be a problem. But you also have really low exposures. I didn't do my parlor trick where but we're still in sub 1 millisecond exposure. So I can sit here and do this all day long and move back and forth, and it's still going to read it. So we're in. It's exceptionally fast. It also has HDR, which means we can turn down our exposure even less. So we're at 1/4 of a millisecond right now, but we still have enough light from that from HDR plus and that light that we can still illuminate 10 feet away. So I really haven't seen it become an issue. And we're at 3 and 5 megapixel images. So it's really high density of pixels. So we have a lot of ppm to read our codes at a distance. So does that answer your question, maybe?
Yes, thanks.
Sure. Okay. So what did we take away? Dataman's cool. It's got a new light. It's got a new sensor. Let's do what everybody wants to talk about. What everyone's probably here for. We're going to do, we have to go back here. Talk about deep learning now. Get past all this. Shouldn't have pressed F5. All right, D900. So now we're moving past barcode readers. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Okay, so now we're moving past barcode readers and we're moving into the brand new stuff that Cognex is doing with machine learning. Well, not machine learning, deep learning. There's a difference. Artificial intelligence. So we're now leaving the traditional vision that Brian was showcasing, which Cognex does really well and has all those tools that have been dominant for so long, and now moving into a realm of artificial intelligence, working through our images and determining how we're doing our inspection or finding different parts or classifying things that change. It's a totally different paradigm, and it's really exciting because it can do things that traditional can't. And so Cognex calls it ViDi, and actually they're rebranding. It's Cognex Deep Learning now. Doesn't matter, but we still call it ViDi for right now until they rebrand it in a couple months here. So traditionally, this artificial intelligence deep learning lived only on the PC. So that's Vision Pro for Cognex. It comes in a variety of different flavors. So you have the red tool, which is defect. You have the blue tool, which is location and kitting. You have the green tool, which is classification. And you have the blue OCR tool, which is OCR. And so they have always tackled these really, really hard problems, such as any defect anywhere has always been hard for traditional because you have to place tools on your image in order to find the defect. And you have to put them in specific spots and say, hey, don't look here, that's not a defect, this is a defect over here. And how do you really write those rules into the traditional vision program? Well, now with artificial intelligence, we basically just kind of give it good images or bad images. And we say, this is the defect over here. If anything in these images looks like that, pick it out. And so now all of a sudden we're playing one tool down, and it's doing a lot of work without any of us defining the rules. And it's not image comparison. It's the same technology kind of that underlying, like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all of them are using. So it's actually building a neural network, a big old math problem in which it puts the image through and tries to find some of the defects. So this originally only lived on the PC because you need a graphics card. Well, Cognex said that's not good enough. So they made this. Looks like the 9000 that you guys saw from Brian's presentation. This is running deep learning just like an Insight. So you build the model on your computer, you deploy it to the D900, and the D900 will run that model. So you no longer need a computer at all. The D900, just like a traditional Insight, you program it, you put the model on, you hit go, you leave it, all that comes off of it are 2 wires, just like Brian was saying, an Ethernet and a power, and you're done. And it'll sit there and run it just like a traditional Insight. But what it allows us to do is look at these really, really hard problems, which I'll show you in a second. And so with that comes the brand new piece of software for the D900 and some of the new toys coming out at the beginning of next year from Cognex, a new software suite. So instead of Insight Explorer, which we're used to for traditional, we have this new Insight Vision Suite. And so it's a different piece of software. It allows us to do cool things like, in this case, right, split the spreadsheet image, some of the cool things we've been asking for a while. A lot of flexibility, a new HMI web builder, the whole 9 yards, and I'll show you guys that in a second. So what does this actually look like? Let me pull up my other thing here. All right. So remember, there's 4 tools: the red, defect; blue, locate/kit; green is classify. So we can think of classification as identifying different types of defects. So if you have a defect in a weld and there's a little bit extra and a little bit, or not complete weld or something like that, and you tell the green tool, hey, this is what extra material looks like, and this is what missing material looks like, it'll be able to return, even though they don't, all welds don't all look the same. It'll be able to tell you, hey, by the way, I found a defect here and it's this type of defect. Hey, I found a defect here and it's the missing type of defect. So it's really, really powerful in that case. And then of course, the 4th tool is the blue OCR, which reads OCR like no one's business. It is incredible. It has saved me a lot of time. I'm very appreciative that it's around. I won't go through all these. This is like 50 things, but I will show you what some of these videos, just so you guys can see. So this is the new web interface that's on the D900. So here's an air filter, and they all look different. So it's finding defects on the fly in here, and I believe they zoom in, and you can see it's finding this kind of thing. So if we try to do this with traditional, what's really here as compared to here, right? It's just some bright spots, some dark spots. But now, because VIDI was taught what a good filter looks like, it now says, oh, well, that piece is different than what I was taught it should be. And you can see all little missing pieces here. But because it knows what it should kind of be like, it's figuring out those defects. So that's the red tool. For those glass, we have a number of glass customers out there. You know, it's always hard. So there's a number of applications where we have good vials, dirty vials even, but what we want to do is we want to find the broken ones. So, and once again, this is not image compare. This is an actual neural network that is being created based on the images you give it. That then it takes new images and pushes them through and determines good, bad, or locate, so on and so forth. So here we see missing parts, misaligned. Tortillas, I love this one. So every tortilla is different. How do you find rips and not find the burnt marks, right? And you just feed it a whole bunch of images of what a good one looks like, and it'll automatically take that variation out and say, oh, there's some missing there. There's a rip there. So something that traditionally would be very, very difficult is now possible. VIDI check is kitting. So this is the blue tool. So not only does it find, you know, something that PatMax might not be able to find, even though PatMax is really good. But if the parts vary a little bit, it might be difficult. But now we can say there should be 2 of these things in here. There should be 1 over here. If you don't find all of them, fail. This is the spark plug one, right? All of these look slightly different. PatMax might be able to do this one, but you just say, basically, I'm looking for 16 of them in here. I'm looking for them all to be black, but as we get on later, it's going to start switching to white, silver. So you're always looking, even though they can be any rotation or look slightly different. Oh, we've got some black ones in there. So finding hard to find things or things that vary in look is what VIDI does really, really nicely. And I will actually show the OCR tool today really quickly here. Here's kitting chocolate. When your chocolate looks wildly different, how could you ever do this with PatMax, right? Maybe you put a pixel count tool and hopefully there's enough white on there so that you know it's not this guy, you know, or at least you would know that this one's not over here, but it's the same idea. These all look different. If you taught all of these to VIDI, it would find it down there no problem. And would tell you if it's in the right spot. So here we're looking through bags, right? It's hard to see through all this hot spot, yet we can teach VIDI what things look like. VIDI read, this is the hard stuff. Okay, so this is at the bottom of probably a McCormick bottle. How can we read this? VIDI is not like traditional OCR. It uses the neural network, so all of a sudden really, really hard to read things are actually quite easy. Here's a good example of it reading on the bottom of a McCormick bottle. And as you can see, it's, you know, you don't have to put a tight box around your characters anymore. You just give it the full image, find me my strings, right? So this is really, really impressive stuff.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Can it differentiate bubbles and debris in liquid?
The answer is yes. In fact, one of the trainings that I did years ago for the PC version, they actually have you pull, it had like life science vials with different types of material in them. They used the green to classify what material was in the vial, what liquid was in there, and they had the red tool. They had us try and use the red tool to find if there was any bubbles or debris at the top near the meniscus. And of course, it was a training, so of course it worked. But But yes, absolutely. But in some cases, I have seen an example with, why can't I think of it? Contact lenses. So there was a manufacturer that wanted to identify that a contact was in the container in the liquid. Well, the problem with the liquid is, and the reason they couldn't do it with traditional vision for so long, is that as the contact lens was floating around in there through the manufacturing process, there was a number of bubbles. The contact lens could be bent and twisted inside this liquid, so it kind of looked different every time, so it was hard to identify. But then sometimes it would be bent and the bubble next to it would kind of look like a lens, right? So with ViDi, they were able to ignore bubbles instead of identify bubbles, and identify the contact lens if it was there or not. Plus, the red tool was also pulling out debris as well, if there was anything in that liquid that shouldn't have been there. So there's a number of cases on both sides, whether you're identifying bubbles or trying to ignore bubbles. There's been a lot of success. The good rule of thumb is, if it's a tough application in which a human being can do it, but traditional vision can't, or struggling with it, ViDi can probably do it. ViDi gets closer to reasoning like humans. It's not perfect, but it gets closer to human-like processing of images rather than traditional, where it's much more rigid. And actually, we talk about bubbles. In this case, we're ignoring bubbles in the background to still be able to read a code on this bottle. Hopefully that answers the question. Reading curved surfaces. This would be, I would tell you, impossible in traditional vision. There's no contrast between the characters or anything like that. But yet ViDi has no problem with it. All right, get out of here. Let's do it. Okay. So this is the new ViDi suite. Now you're going to have your cameras kind of appear over here, and your emulator. I don't know why my emulator is not up, but that's okay. You now will be able to see all of your camera's information right off the bat on your home screen. You will be able to do a whole bunch of things like backup, restore, change the startup job, things like that. Update the firmware, all from this main screen. Once you connect to it, let me split this so you guys can see the cool new thing. Right now, there's only spreadsheet, but that's okay. Because the complexity of your spreadsheet drops dramatically if you're doing, most likely, it drops dramatically if you're doing ViDi. So I am doing all this OCR now. I'm not doing complex red tool or anything like that, but my entire jaw file has a PatMax tool, a ViDi read tool. All of this extra stuff over here is just what the tool automatically spits out. I added this so I can change what the OCR is comparing its results to. And then I added some buttons and stuff to move stuff around. But really, the core of the job that I could put on the line is really this. That's it, 3 tools for doing OCR on this hard to read. There's no filtering, no nothing. It's just those 3 tools on this, this job, which I'll show you in a second, was traditionally another piece of technology called Surface FX. I don't know if some of you may have dabbled in the technology where you have to take 4 pictures and it uses the shadows and it kind of brings up the edge. Don't need that anymore. So let's zoom out here and zoom in. So now this is pressed plastic. So this is white plastic that's been embossed, pressed down with a die, and the characters raise up out of the plastic. So this is white on white, hard to read. In fact, one of these is harder to read than the others. You traditionally with traditional OCR Max, although it's good, these characters are really close to each other. There's not a lot of contrast. I would have to filter probably. And then on top of that, OCR Max has built into it 2 filters. So it can be quite difficult. to read something like this, and particularly at speed, right? So I will put this into run mode in a second here, but I will also show you the cool new Web HMI. So traditional Insight has, normally we would use the Vision View. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Vision View. You may have known that the Web HMI that runs on these cameras has been getting better and better, now has custom view in it, but you can't really change much about it. You can kind of expose tools in the Web HMI or Vision View.
Yeah, you're back on. You can go back on.
So it's a lot more rigid. Now, this new one, you can make the screens however big you want. You can put any kind of any of these tools on it. You can put multiple screens on it. You can have multiple screens. You can put any kind of button anywhere, online, offline. So here's a trigger button. Here's a camera button. You can have buttons that train stuff in your spreadsheet. You can have entry text boxes. You can have things that change color. You can do anything. You can make it look however you want. I know some of you, I might have demonstrated the D900 to. You know, I put the logo up here, right? It's just anything you can dream of, it's going to be on there. You can put it on there, and you can have all different kinds of screens, all different kinds of colors. It's really, really, really nice. So if we run this, if we go online, sure, why not? All right, so here's the Web HMI. I'm going to do one cool thing more. I'm going to open it in an actual browser. All right, so it just automatically points to the camera. This is an interactive web page. I can pull this up on anything that does HTML5. So it's really, really useful. We have some thin clients here at Applied for Siemens that runs this, runs a web browser that's capable of this. It can be any laptop. In fact, if Brian VPN'd into Applied Controls, he could pull it up on his laptop at home. So as long as you're on the network, you can see it. All right, so this one is not used, but we're going to use lot entry as our thing here. And so I'm just going to put this guy in here. And as we can see, we are actually reading this at about 100 milliseconds, so pretty quick. And we're reading all of these characters. Now, I actually have this button tied to my spreadsheet. So if I hit train, now all of a sudden it automatically took what it read, placed it into the comparison, and I'm on a pass. So it was just a nice way of doing it instead of actually having to type it in every single time. So here we go, some new characters. That 0 in the end is really, really, hasn't been pressed in very hard, so it's actually quite difficult to be able to read that with traditional OCR. So a number of different ones. That 7 actually is kind of losing one of its edges, so you can only kind of really see the raised part. That one is actually kind of nice, but that 9 has a gash through it. Now, I have not done this. Here, I'll bring up my picture. I have not done this one. I have 4. I don't know if all the letters are trained, but I have some here that I purchased the other night that have not seen the model yet. So hopefully this doesn't backfire. So here's the new ones. I think all of these characters should be in there. Voila! Woo! So that 3 is really, oh, look at that 9. Actually, you know what? I could rotate this so it actually reads well. Last one. Yeah, good job. So as you can see, it's really, really powerful technology for being able to do defects, classify, locate objects. Troy and I have done a bit of that, looking down at the box before it's shipped. Are there 24 of widget A in that box, yes or no, which can sometimes be hard with traditional vision, but we've seen a lot of success with that, even as product falls over, so on and so forth. So I'm kidding, but last thing I'll do here is I'll open up VIDI itself so you guys can kind of see what VIDI looks like. So you can see this is the number of trained. So I trained all of that OCR in 14 pictures. But you can see here, you put your images in, and I won't go over all the new changes in the software about how you acquire images. It's just like the old ones, but the film strip is now a cool addition. But once you do that, you kind of define a region of interest. I did this, so PatMax moves this little box around. I could actually make it bigger now that I've trained it, but and you just simply put a whole bunch of images in. You tell it what each character is. So a green box is one I have told it what the letters mean. A yellow box is one that has run through the model, and that's VIDI telling me what it thinks it saw. So I've only trained the green ones. So you can see, get out of here. So you can see that's the simple process. And the red tool's the same way, and it's as simple as hitting the plus button. Oh, it's a VIDI read tool. It's only the blue one. But if you have blue, locate, read, analyze, green, and I won't go through all of them, but they're all here, and they all run on this platform, on this camera, no external controller. You do the training on a laptop with a GPU. It's a little caveat, with a GPU to be able to crunch and build the model. But once you're done, it'll run on the camera just like a traditional Insight, just like you saw today. So I will.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Sure.
Is there a size limit to how small of defects can be detected?
Let me close this. Come back over here and turn my camera on over here. No is the question. And in fact, it's a little mind-boggling too in the fact that because we're using a neural network and we're not using traditional vision where each pixel matters more, right? Because to traditional vision, a pixel is a grayscale value. It's from 0 to 255. There's nothing else around it. It'll do its rules based on whether if it's a histogram, it's looking at each individual pixel. If it's an edge tool, it looks at a line of pixels and determines, oh, they all have a certain value changing from this one to that one, so on and so forth. Neural network doesn't care as much. So although resolution matters in some cases, it doesn't necessarily matter as much because it's not looking per se at each individual pixel to determine its result. Somebody with a PhD can probably explain it better, but what it actually does is it goes and it looks for features within the image as it builds its model, and how you tell it to build its model changes the way it runs that math. So ultimately, the answer is no, there isn't. I mean, if it's a couple of pixels big, you probably want to get a bigger field of view so that they're a little bit bigger. But there really isn't much of a limit on it to be able to identify some of these things.
Hey, Adam, did you go over the resolution of the VIDI, of the Insight VIDI?
So D900 comes in 2 flavors. Oh, it comes in 4, but it comes in 2 megapixel and 5 megapixel. So 2.3 megapixel and 5 megapixel. It comes in monochrome and now color as of last week. In fact, the software you saw was the new 1.3, which allows to do color. I have not done color. Allison has a color one. And then there's 2 different flavors as far as tools. So there's the full VIDI suite, and there is the app tools only, which is basically for a little bit less, you can get the unsupervised red tool, the OCR tool, and basically half of the blue tool. So just kidding. So with that blue tool, you can't say what's the X, Y, theta of something. It'll just tell you if something's there or not. So it's still VIDI in the fact that you can find really hard things or find really hard defects or something like that. But you just don't have like the supervised red tool or the green tool or something like that. So it just depends on your application. If you need to only do OCR, then it would be the options. Can you train it with either an existing images or both good and bad part? Yes, you can. Ideally, when you're doing this kind of application, you want to be able to put a camera with the light that you're going to use and all that kind of stuff on the line. You take half a day, you feed, you take a whole bunch of images of good, and you take, you present it some bad images if that's what you need for the red tool. You don't always need bad images. It just depends on what direction you're going. For the supervised red, you would need bad images. But I have done proof of concepts with pictures that customers have sent with their existing camera, which would, I guess, technically almost be kind of worst case because it's not the same camera, it's not the same lighting, all that kind of stuff, and still VIDI has been able to do it. So it's really, really exciting in that regard. So yeah, but most of the time what we're trying to do is trying to get the D900 on a line, take images, and actually do the evaluation with the images from the line. But hey, we'll take any images. I'll try with anything. So that is all I have. I guess we're a little bit over, but if there's any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I'm sure Brian as well, or Allison. If there's anything Allison wants to talk about, there's a little bit of time, so she can do that as well. But
Allison had to go.
She's gone.
I know, but she said if anybody has questions, she's happy to answer them. We can email them to her or call her.
So salesy kind of stuff, in case that didn't go over. Apply controls we have in lab, which is where Adam is sitting, even though the background doesn't look like it anymore. He's still there. So we have cameras, lights, lenses, all kinds of things already at our disposal. And we have good relationships with our lighting, lensing people. If there's something additionally we need to get to do an eval, that's right in our wheelhouse of these two guys to do that. For the VIDI that Adam talked about, there's a couple of kits that Cognex provides, different lab kits for different VIDI cameras, lab kits for accessories, lab kits that include the dongle that I don't think Adam mentioned for setting up. So there's a couple other pieces, parts, but there are some lab kits that Cognex has come up with very aggressive pricing to kind of get the first one, to kind of get the initial cost where it's palatable. The cameras.
I think we lost Troy.
Come
Nope.
in there.
Troy, we lost you.
Do you have me back now?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I guess that's my commercial to get a new laptop. So I'm not sure where it ended.
Aggressive pricing.
But, okay. For lab kits and those type of things to kind of get in, get the first.
Yeah, Troy. We'll send an email and we'll talk about the starter kits. I'll pull that together. I think I have a PDF of it. And hey, Adam, can you put up the last slide for your contact info? And
oh yes, I can. Forgot about that bad boy. Share screen one. So that's our contact information. if you have any additional questions or want to know more about, particularly the D900 or traditional Insight, and then the Data Man, or you want to see the new Torchlight on the Data Man and see if it'll work across your conveyor belt, or you have an interesting application that you think artificial intelligence might be able to solve on the line, you can contact us and we'll see what we can do.